Welcome to the Fit Dad Nation podcast, forging strong fathers and raising a stronger generation. It's time to get up or shut up with your host, Steve Roy.
Hey guys, this is Steve Roy, host of the Fit Dad Nation podcast. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for listening. Before I get into today's topic, if you're a dad and you're listening to this and you're struggling with some aspect of your health and fitness, stop trying to do it alone because it's not working, and find a tribe of guys or a tribe that is doing the same stuff that you're doing. I've spent the last 5 years working exclusively with dads online, and one of the main things that I've seen that can really mean the difference between success and failure is being part of a group of like-minded people. And for us, it's the Fit Dad Nation. It's dads who aren't necessarily so concerned about big bench presses and squats and abs, but rather living a healthy lifestyle, having more energy, being able to play with their kids, feeling good about yourself, feeling attractive to your wife, getting, that energy back that you had once before. And, it wouldn't hurt, to see some of those muscles that you had probably 15, 20 years ago. So the best way to do that, apply to our free private Facebook group. It's fitdadnation.com/community. So today I want to talk about something that's not directly fitness related. It's very indirectly related, but extremely important nonetheless. And so this is something that I feel extremely strongly about. And when I was working my desk job back, I started back in 2002, and I ended up working, it was a finance job. I worked as a financial advisor from 2002 to 2013. And for the most part, I would say for 95% of that time, I hated it. It just wasn't a good fit. I didn't enjoy the work. I didn't enjoy sitting at a desk. I didn't always enjoy the people I worked with. The environment wasn't great. A lot of arrogance, big egos when there's a lot of money floating around. Just was not for me, and I knew that. But because it paid well, and I was married at the time, and now my ex-wife, she didn't work. She stayed home with the kids. I didn't really have that option to go out and pursue my passion. So what I did was I started writing. I created a blog in 2010 and started just basically writing from the heart about my struggles as a corporate employee and how much the 9-to-5 was sucking the life out of me. And my goal was to inspire others to start kind of looking beyond what's right in front of them and thinking, okay, this is going to be this way for the rest of my life, and start actually thinking about their own happiness. And so my goal was to create an online business that would allow me to walk away from my desk job, which I felt chained to. And I wrote about it. I wrote about it 3 or 4 times a week consistently for a few years. And it did really well. A lot of people resonated with my message because I was writing from the heart. And I still, because now that I actually have walked away from that and I'm doing something I love and I am working an online business, I've seen both sides, and I remember those days of going into work, and you may be able to resonate with this, but showing up on a Monday morning and just thinking, okay, I'm literally going to spend the next 40 to 50 hours of my week doing something that I really have zero interest in. And when you feel like that, you're like, this is my life, and it's literally just slipping through my fingers. I'm letting it go. I'm choosing to let this time just pass, right? And you can make an argument for security and safety and bills. Of course you can, right? But I'm just a very huge believer, and I'm a perfect example of finding something that you love, finding something that you actually are good at or willing to get really good at, and letting that become your passion project and let that be the thing that lets you survive and create an income. I honestly believe that, and I've been around a lot of people over the last, I guess now it's been 10 years, that have made plenty of money, enough to live on, and a lot more, working online, doing something that they just absolutely love. And for me, being able to wake up, having my own schedule, working with guys that I want to work with, having a number of clients that I care deeply about, and many have become close friends. Yeah, it's an amazing feeling, and it really upsets me to think that so many of you right now listening to this are just checking a box, punching a clock, collecting a paycheck, waiting for the end of the week, waiting for the weekend so you can go have a couple beers, so you can play golf, so you can go fishing, whatever it is. And that's how you're going to spend your life. Or at least that's probably your plan if you even have one, right? I think that's a very tragic way to go through life. And there's a lot of people that are going to disagree with that, and that's okay. But I can just tell you from my experience, that really upsets me to see people. And I've had friends, I know a lot of men that they live for the weekends. They put their head down. They just get their work done, try to get through it, with as little stress as possible, not trying to make too many waves, collect their paycheck, deposit it in the bank, pay off their bills, repeat for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. That's not a life to me. So I put together a list of some things that I want to share with you and things that I've applied in my own life that have helped me tremendously. And I would say these are lies that you tell yourself that keep you from being happy. And, I'm not jumping on the happiness train where everybody's going to be running around happy and joyous. And, that's not how life works. And I realize that. But not enough men are going through life feeling fulfilled, feeling passionate, and feeling that true sense of happiness. And it really, really upsets me because I lived it for so long that I can never get that decade of my life back. Basically, that entire decade was a wash. I mean, I was not only struggling at work, really disliked what I was doing, but I was really struggling in my marriage, which ultimately ended in divorce after 8.5 years. That was a very hard time for me. And so the things that I've learned, my quality of life now, and I'm not saying this to brag or anything, it's just really, really good. I'm with an amazing woman who's extremely supportive of what I do every day. My relationship with my kids has improved, my girls, tremendously because of how I view my life, because I'm actually happy waking up and I'm in a good mood because I love what I do. I've got a lot of great things going on. I'm surrounded by the people I want to be surrounded by. So I'm going to share a couple of things that I've learned, and these are lies that we've told ourselves, and certainly ones I've told myself many times in the past, but I've had to get through them, had to change my thinking in order to move past them. So the first one is your past defines you, right? Now, just understand your past only has power to dictate your future if you let it, right? That's it. My childhood sucked. I've shared this before. Other than every summer being with my dad out in Los Angeles, having a great time, I had a lot of issues, a lot of emotional issues. School was awful for me for the most part. But if I let that define me, like I was a super dork, picked on, never played sports. I was, 50 pounds soaking wet when I was, in middle school. I had crooked teeth and zits and greasy mullet. I had very few friends. It was a really lousy childhood for me. But if I let that define me, and I let all those things that I went through become part of me and control me, I would be some loser. I'm 40. I'd be a 49-year-old loser sitting in someone's basement playing World of Warcraft all day, every day. That's the path I was headed. So don't let that define you. It doesn't matter what you went through, what you're going through now. Seriously. And it sounds, like such a cliche, but you can literally wake up tomorrow and make a new decision, make a new path, change your entire life. It's honestly that simple, but you have to really want to change it. Okay, I will say also something that we always tell ourselves and we hear a lot is, you know what, work is supposed to suck. That's why they call it work, right? And I don't mind hard work. I'm an advocate for working your ass off. We just had our daughter get a job at a grocery store, and she's schlepping carts, and it's hot as shit out here. Humid, nasty, but I wanted to teach her the value of hard work because, yeah, it's not fun. It sucks being out there for hours and hours schlepping carts with a mask because of the corona, but there's a lot to be said for that. But work isn't supposed to suck. Yes, it does for a lot of us. Well, it pays the bills. That's not an answer. That's not a good answer. And I've had a lot of friends say that. Well, it's security. It's it's got good benefits. So what? Create your own security. Create a job that you can't get fired from. Right? If I lose my business, it's my fault. That's it. It's nobody else's fault. I can't blame anybody else, and that's okay. I want the responsibility. I don't want to be at my boss's beck and call. And I had a boss, my last job, that I didn't like at all, and it was a miserable connection. It was a bad experience. Just very unhappy there. And so don't think that your work has to suck because that's just what we're told to do, right? It's ridiculous. There's always a way to go out and do something that you love. I honestly believe that. Always, always, always. Next one I will say is there's a conversation in our head a lot of times that says, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve to be happy. I'm not good enough. Why should I be living the dream? And while everybody else is working these 9-to-5ers and grinding out their jobs year after year, right? What makes me special, right? And I have this conversation a lot with myself because I have this, or I had anyway, a really deep-seated fear of success. I always felt like I wasn't good enough because of my childhood. I had to go through a lot of training, a lot of emotional stuff to get through that, but it's still there. I mean, it's always going to be a part of me. But if you think that you don't deserve it, you're never going to get anywhere. You're always going to find a situation that brings you down. And it's honestly all bullshit. It really is. You know, every person, I believe, has a unique gift, something to give back to the world. And it's your job to find it, because if you're not happy, every area of your life is suffering because of it. And I'm talking about your family, right? And I can tell you, when I was married, I would come home and I was fucking miserable. I was like, just spent 8 hours staring at spreadsheets, listening to someone I didn't want to listen to, sitting in meetings I could barely stay awake for, listening to bullshit brokers talk about mutual funds and bond swaps and blah, blah, blah. Fucking hated it. I came home to a house that was not a happy house. And there's no way to live. And so if that's you, it's on you to change that, because your family deserves better. Okay? You know, another one that is really something that holds so many of us back is just being in this trapped way of thinking of, I can't change. It's just who I am. It's how I am. I'm wired to be this way. My father worked hard. He was a welder. He was whatever. He worked 80 hours a week. That's my path. And if you're okay with that, great. Fine. If you're not, recognize that's fucking shit. That's garbage. Absolutely. Anybody can change. And again, I'm just going to use, and I've seen this in a lot of the clients and dads that I've worked with over the years, but when I was 21, I was a fucking loser. I mean, I was living in New Hampshire in this horrible, shitty, tiny, I don't even remember how small it was, but it had to be 500 square foot, paper thin walls, paper thin carpet. I was living across the street from a cemetery. And it was a fucking dump. I had a job as a waiter. I was super dorky, Again, had this little peach fuzz mustache, and I had zits. I had braces when I was 20, 21, 22. And it just didn't, I didn't have any real direction as far as what I was going to do, what I was going to become. And I could have gone down any number of paths. But instead, I decided that I wanted to live a better life. And ultimately, it led me, to cross-country trips. I lived in a lot of different states, a lot of different apartments, a lot of different places. I met a ton of people. I worked in a bunch of different jobs. But I had an amazing experience, and I grew and grew and grew. And, it really shaped the person that I am. And so I remember I went to my 10-year high school reunion. I graduated high school in 1989. I went to my 10-year reunion. I show up, and not one person, even the people that I knew pretty well, I didn't have too many friends, maybe just a couple, but they had no idea who I was because I had changed so much physically that they're like, I don't really remember you. And it was a great feeling because I was such a dork in high school that, it was a great feeling. And so my point is, if you think you can't change, you can. Absolutely. This one, I've got a list here that I'm reading from because I made some notes and I wanted to make sure I covered the things I wanted to cover. And when I read this, my heart sinks a little bit, because people will say that things are going to get better, things will change, and I just have to tell you, shit does not change on its own. It just doesn't. Things won't get better until you get better. Okay? The world doesn't owe us shit. Seriously. Sometimes I wish it did, but it doesn't. You got to work for everything that you want. Everything. And it's, sometimes, yes, you're going to walk into a situation, something lucky, you're going to get a break. It does happen, of course. But for the most part, and for me, I don't really remember having any breaks particularly fall into my lap. I've had to work for everything that I have, and that's okay with that because that's what we do. But again, if you want your life to improve, you as a person have to improve, and that means taking small steps towards your goals. If you don't have goals, set them. Okay, do something every single day. One of the sayings we have in the Fit Dad Nation is one day better. And that's all you got to do. Get one day better. If you're in a dire situation, whether it's your relationship or your job or your health, maybe you have to take dire moves, right? You have to go all in on it and make massive changes. And it's tough, it's scary, all those things. But ask yourself this, what if you don't make changes? What is your life going to look like in 5 years, 10 years? I knew my life was going to be a wash. Had I stayed in the finance game, my income would have gone up and up and up, and I would have felt like I was trapped, right? Because once we start making a lot of money, it's very hard to walk away. Yes, you can, but I cut it off at a point where I was making a good living, but I decided that I was going to cut it off there before I was really, really trapped. So if you don't have the skills you want, get them, learn them. All that shit's online these days anyway. You can learn anything you want. Okay? I don't care if you're trying to start a business or an online business and you wanted to go into a very crowded market and say, well, I'll never stand out, I'll never make any money, it's too crowded. I'll tell you right now, the fitness game, I'm in the fitness weight loss industry. It's probably, other than the making money online business, is the biggest business out here online. It's extremely competitive, and it's difficult to stand out. But if that's what you love to do, you're going to find a way to do it, and which is what I've done. Right? I haven't become a multimillionaire. I'm working every day. I get up early. I work all day long. There's really no off days. Yeah, I take days off, sure. But I'm working all the time. I'm in bed at 10, 11 o'clock at night. I'm on social media, emails, messages, right? There's always something to do. This is the path I chose, and I've chosen to get really good at it over the last 23 years since I first got certified in 1997. But, I got better. Okay? So keep that in mind, please. Your life will not change unless you change. Okay? And just, I want to leave you with this. If you're listening to this and this is like hitting you hard, and I've had a lot of conversations with guys that were really struggling with this part of their life. Again, if you're not happy inside, that is affecting your family. And, think about, this is your life. It's your life. Most of you listening to this are in your 30s, 40s, and maybe 50s. We are not getting younger. I think about my own mortality all the time. 49. I mean, I'm sure I'm more than halfway through my life. Do I want to spend the next 20 years doing shit I hate? Or would I rather hustle, bust my ass, create something that makes me happy, do something that I have a passion for, do something that gives me a sense of purpose, right? Do something that lets me be with my family, right? Because I'm my own boss, yeah, I can take my kids to school, I can pick them up, I can take a Wednesday off and take them out. That is what I want. So whatever you want, you have to decide on that and then just go after it with all you can. If you have questions, if you want to hear more about my story or some of my writing, which goes pretty deep into a lot of this stuff, feel free to reach out with me, please. Just shoot me an email, steve@fitdadnation.com, or reach out to me on social. It's at the Fit Dad Nation on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch up with you next week.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, if you want more information, check out the Fit Dad Basecamp group on Facebook. And don't forget to stop by fitdadnation.com. Until next time, keep kicking ass and taking the next step. You can do this, Dad.